Hello and welcome to the Pinkbike podcast. My name is Henry and I am joined by Dario and Kaz to give some of the Lucast, warmest takes in mountain biking as we discuss some of your questions, the news, and we've got a bit of a discussion today because we're going to talk about how the bicycle industry works. Kaz, you've been sending tech editors all around the world going to exciting press camps for products that may or may not be coming out in the near future. What is it about the early part of the year that everyone is so crowded to get products out? Surely it would make sense to spread them out a bit.
Yeah, it would be nice if they spread out a little bit, but I think we have Seattle has kind of become, over the last few years, Seattle has become a more important trade show. It's kind of, I'd say the importance of Seattle has ebbed and flows over the years, but nowadays it kind of seems like it's back to what it used to be, where springtime is really the kickoff to the bike season, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. And so all the companies want to have their products launched at or around Seattle, just so that they're getting the most eyeballs. People are excited. New stuff at springtime. You know, what's the latest and greatest? So, we have a lot of products that are going to be launched very soon. You know, starting basically like mid-March through mid-April. There's so many new products on the way.
But it seems like there's also a strange thing where the week before Seattle is now the busiest thing because people don't want to get buried in Seattle. Yeah, and then you get there and there's nothing actually really to do.
Exactly. Like if I was a company, I'd wait maybe till the week after Seattle. I don't know. It's there's definitely a lot of dates that stack up, and there's no master calendar for these companies to coordinate. Like things through the rumor mill and things they can figure out. But if say Specialized launches a bike on one day and Trek launches it on the same day, that's kind of a big. I think they try to avoid, but they're obviously not actually talking to each other. So there's lots of just kind of like figuring out when things are launching. You know, everyone's just trying to get the most people to see their product on the day that it launches, but. It is kind of a lot of calendar figuring out this time of year.
Dario, as a young boy growing up in Texas, you must have been very excited for the local Seattle bike festival. You've been to Taiwan, the Taipei Bike Show.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you've ever been to Eurobike, but how do you rank and interpret the differences between... Because it feels like Kaz says there was one point that Eurobike was the big one, and now it feels like maybe less so.
At this point, it does feel like Seattle kind of has the industry in its grasp. You know, I think there's like some companies that are pushing to make Crankworx more of a trade show, but realistically, like all of the timelines center around Seattle, especially for North American companies. Eurobike is kind of the second wave because that's more of a summer event. So I think anyone who didn't have something out for Seattle will usually aim for that as like a follow-up. But yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense to have, you know, a North Star in terms of like release date. But then again, time isn't real anyway. So like, why not just release it at some point throughout the year?
Well, that's a really interesting, is that what your defense stand on? Because you broke an embargo last week, Dario.
I have broken embargo today.
You're going to level?
I'm not going to discuss what the item was, but it was a non-bicycle industry product that we were let in on, and I didn't realize there was an embargo for it, and a member of our video team let it slip, but that's okay.
I saw you put in Slack that if the glove don't fit, you've got to quit. I thought that was bold. That's you don't bring that one in.
Yeah, I don't think OJ information is embargoed at this point, right?
I think that's fair game now.
Yeah, I think it's been a while.
I think that's
mines are pretty settled on that one, you know, depending on which camp you sit in. But it's hard. I mean, we have like a master calendar that we keep track of everything with, and that, you know, it does a pretty good job. I think all of us respect the embargoes pretty firmly, but it's hard. I mean, you have like 25 things to keep track of, and usually the concern for me is like missing the embargo in terms of like it passing, not it coming too soon.
Yeah, so, exactly. And like we've mentioned before on here, but for people that don't know, basically the reason that the embargoes exist is so that we can get time on the products before they launch. So on the day they launch, we can have at least a good first look or even a full review if we have enough time. And that way, when they do launch, the company ideally has them in stock and people can buy them. So the concern from certain companies, if you say you're working on a new product and people see it too soon and you still have old product to sell, then it can kind of cannibalize those sales, or people like, I'm going to wait for the new stuff. So that's why, that's kind of why embargoes exist. They're maybe a little silly in some cases, but other times I think they're kind of useful. It is nice for us to be able to, try this stuff out and have a good thorough understanding of it when it does launch for the general public.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think protecting the dealers is really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
Kaz, looking back with a bit of distance, have there been any embargo bad ones that we broke over the years accidentally, you know?
Yeah, nothing really. I mean, some of them were just more like time zones. Time zones are really tricky. And so there have been some where, you know, an article would go live at the wrong time zone. And that was purely just like user error. You know, we thought that it's just getting the time zones wrong, basically. That's more of it. It's not like, I don't think we've ever got something and then just immediately published it and, oh, look what we got, and then just fully blow the embargo, you know, by months or anything like that. So, yeah, we do try, you know, hard to keep
we'll do the spotted stuff, which is usually that's predating us having, it's always predating us having any knowledge of a product. So in those cases, like you look at the new demo thing that Matt published last week, it's like, we don't know anything about that bike, but
yeah,
you know, someone sent us a picture.
Well, also there's the element of not all the tech editors. If you go to a press camp, you don't come back and go, boy, oh boy, the new specialized demo. Let me tell everything about it. There's this.
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we kind of silo the editors off just so that it's a little bit separate and so that somebody can speculate. Like, we're not going to assign someone to speculate about a product they already are testing. Like, that would be silly. So if someone's writing an article, a spotted article, they haven't actually seen that or ridden it or anything like that. So we just try to keep it separate.
Yeah, it feels weird as well. I feel with, you know, it felt like Ciotta and the good old press camp really got its place questioned during COVID. And it feels like they're kind of back with a bang now. People are actually realizing, you know, it is good to be in the same place, do the same things. And I don't know. I remember that was it Pond Beaver?
Yeah,
which actually felt almost like it was going to be kind of the future, but it just didn't really work out like that.
Yeah, I think that the in-person trade show, I think there's a place for it. And I think the press camps they've kind of scaled down a little bit, which is nice. I think it's great when, you know, product managers or marketing people or whoever can kind of show up to our backyards and we ride with them in a smaller scale setting. I don't think it's totally necessary to have these huge extravaganzas. I mean, Dario just came back from one, but when you have 50 or 60 people flying to one location, that's kind of a lot. And I personally prefer the smaller one where you just kind of go on your local trails and ride. So that's kind of changing a little bit. And I think that it's like a little, you know, COVID kind of started that and it's kind of continued, but yeah, it is good to see everybody in one place at the same time.
It's fun. It's like summer camp.
Yeah.
That's why I don't have a voice right now, is because of that 70-person event. We went to Medieval Times and I was screaming so loudly to support my knight. I lost my voice and it has yet to return.
Earlier on, I had to nip out the room to get some water. I came back and put the headphones on, and then you were talking being served by a serf, and I didn't realize it was in the context of this medieval knight. I was like, Dario, that's a bit rich.
Yeah, I'm really trying to regress in society over here. We've got a group of people that live in the mud out behind my house.
So if, Dario, your show and tell is you getting a slap to wrist for being a naughty boy and basically breaking the bike industry with breaking an embargo, Kaz, what's your show and tell this week?
Mine's exciting. It's called the Rotoluber. It's I just like the name and I like what it is. It's funny. It's like a little, I'm holding it up. So if you're listening on audio, then I can tell you about it. It's basically a little thing that attaches to your chain lube bottle and it helps you lube your chain more efficiently. It's got a little dial.
So what does the arm part do?
Well,
like the lower dangle?
Yeah, this arm part sits under the chain. So it holds the chain from below. And then it has a little wheel, kind of looks like a little water wheel, and there's a hole in the middle. And so the design is that it puts out like one drop of chain lube. Exactly. Huh. It's obviously not necessary. No,
do you squeeze it still?
Yeah, you squeeze it, but like you can, because of this little dial on here, if you squeeze super hard, it's not just going to blast chain lube anywhere. Like, obviously I know how to lube my chain and I do not need this item. But I'll give the guy credit. He made it and it's 3D printed. It's kind of expensive. I think it's $40 for this. But it does do what it says on the tin. Like, it does put the chain lube exactly in the middle of each roller. So for someone that's like super anal,
you're such a sweet man. Your show and tells are always chain lube, multi-tools.
It's the little things, yeah.
I mean, it's the little, you know.
It's show and tell. Like you can't bring the big things. I'm not gonna be the kid
that
brings it.
No, but it's just so sweet. It's just like you'll be testing some like the brand new latest and greatest in Fork, and it's like we all sit down and come to Kaz's corner, and it's like, well, kids, today I've got.
It's my little Rotoluber. So the Rotoluber even comes with a little stand, so you don't dump like chain lube all over the place. So,
nice.
Yeah, it exists. I don't know if it's the future, but I like that you spent the time to design it.
How do you guys? Can you remember? I don't really ride e-bikes. But when you've got a lube and e-bike chain, do you just like jam an Allen key in the chainring or something to stop it spinning endlessly?
I just turn it by hand now.
I just
like you just
while
put
I'm
your
riding
fingers.
the bike, I just spray lube behind me and hope that some of it gets on the chain. Yeah.
Nice.
You could also put it in the bike stand and put it in walk mode, and then it'll pedal by itself, and then you can lube it.
Yeah, that works.
Nice.
I remember on a bike tour once, I was getting really frustrated with how loud my drivetrain had gotten. This was like a month into a ride, and I was getting sick of stopping and lubing my chain, so I did try to just spray it onto the bike while riding.
Nice.
And I remember getting so much chain lube in my sock that I had to stop and change my socks.
Nice.
So I've only made that mistake once.
I mean, there have been companies over the years that have created like remote chain lube devices. I've seen them with like all kinds of tubes and things.
I could see it. I can, like, with the popularity of waxing chains, I'm surprised someone hasn't come up with like a chapstick type dispenser that just like rubs waxed substance onto your chain as you ride. But
you could just zip tie a block of wax onto your top of your chainstay.
Yeah.
And that way when it slaps, it lubes itself.
Oh my God.
So that way you're getting chain damping and lubing at the same time.
Yeah. And eventually it would phase out enough that it would hit all parts of the chain.
Yeah. I think I invented something. I'm going to get rich now.
Yeah, there we go.
That's a good show and tell for next week, Kaz. Kaz's cheese corner. What have we got going on? So last week we had in the news a really good must watch. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've seen some must watches and that name tag bandied around, which I haven't considered absolute must watches. I've been a bit, it's getting, pretty fast and thin. However, Braga Restovic's 20-minute helicopter extravaganza in Alaska is...
It was so fucking cool.
Wild. Some of the things he's riding, like...
It's crazy.
The scale of it is pretty impossible to convey, but at the end of every line, they would zoom out and show you the full mountain, and that's when you realize like how fucked the stuff he's riding is. It was so cool.
Yeah. And a lot of times this type of, I don't always like riding, or I don't always like watching this style of riding because it doesn't seem too gnarly sometimes. Like when you see someone skidding down a scree field, you're like, that looks fun. But this is like, oh, this is proper, like, you could ski it and it would be steep enough to ski. He's on, which means super steep.
Yeah. I think Braga has a unique ability to make things look as gnarly as they are. Like that Sandscape Eternal video he came out with last year, I think is even crazier looking just because he's like charging so hard. Maybe because the access to healthcare is a little bit easier. Like, I mean, that's part of it. Like, honestly, like you think about
plot the graph, like where the best, free ride videos happen and access to healthcare.
Yeah.
I mean, the crash he had in this one, if I crashed like that, he does this like tomahawk, I would break all my bones. I would just be like a puddle of stuff, and he just gets
become
up,
a bag of goo.
Yeah, he's like, I'm okay, I'll ride down. Like, man, Braga.
Yeah,
it was cool.
I don't get how he doesn't boil his brakes.
Yeah,
how is it that people can boil brakes on Crank It Up and he can't boil them? I don't get it.
I don't know. I mean, it's a testament to Saints, if anything. Like, 12-year-old brakes, and do we know who he's riding for next?
No, he's on GT in this.
Yeah, he's on his GTs, but man, everybody in the bike industry should be fighting to sign him.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's what's going on. Maybe that's why he hasn't got.
Honestly,
just a bidding war,
point. I thought it was cool. The documentary style of it was funny a bit. Like it felt like they were trying to build a narrative structure to the video that didn't necessarily need to be there, but I don't care. It was so cool.
I like, and that's the scenery itself. Like you would just go in there and hiking around and be cool. And then it was great. So if you haven't watched it, you should watch Braga go down crazy steep mountains in Alaska.
And it is a rare all caps must watch, which is like a special.
Is that
levels of?
Okay, I didn't know.
It was initially a regular must watch, but I think Brian gave it an all caps.
You get the all caps.
Well, shall we get into some questions?
Yeah,
sure.
Now, I took about 25 minutes loading them up, so hopefully they work. There's every chance they won't. But assuming they will, we're going to fire them into here.
G'day, just thinking if you could please,
Is he recording this like in
Dario.
a bar?
I mean, so what if it is? He's
sounds
like
like a Star
Australian. That's like the family room.
That was like the Star Wars cantina. It's like all
Yeah.
aliens in the bag.
Right. Okay. Well,
All right, now I'm ready. Yeah.
okay. Compose yourself.
Put it simply, my wife and I love going to bed to your podcast, and it's wonderful listening to the stuff that you talk about and all. But problem is, at the end of the episode, when you play out the outro music, it's very loud and it wakes
It
us
is.
up.
Oh, you're complaining about the noise
Just
of
let
the fucking
the whole
outro.
thing just fade down to a beautiful sleep. All right, thanks very much. Bye now.
You know what?
I-
This is such a fair criticism because
Yeah.
the outro music
It
is
is
always
loud.
really loud.
Yeah, we
I
can
love
fade
that
it
you two
down.
listen to it to go to bed.
That's nice.
Should we start
We have-
telling like a little bedtime stories, like a little lullaby? What's this person's name?
I didn't think they said. I've
yeah.
started. I haven't played the intro and outro music, and I'll put it in afterwards. I think sometimes the leveling isn't very good. It's done by a thing called artificial intelligence. Don't know if you've
Right.
heard of it, but it's not as good as it's cracked up to be, and
Yeah.
it's also does too much that I don't know how to fix it. But I'll put the music in afterwards after AI has ruined everything, and hopefully
And we do have the technology to fade it out. So yeah, we'll help you get your beauty sleep.
Sweet
yeah.
dreams, John.
Yeah. I guess
I thought it was such a nice
I don't know
message.
how I feel
Made me
about
laugh.
people listening to this in bed, falling asleep. But if that helps you sleep, I guess that's good. Maybe.
I mean,
I guess, yeah.
he's
probably.
making it to the end, so that's good too.
no, I
That's-
think
yeah.
he's not making it. I think they're falling asleep. and
Well,
being
that's
woken
okay.
up.
Wakes him up.
But there,
Oh, yeah,
we
right.
get that full listen.
Yeah,
You
we
know?
get to- as long as you get to play, it doesn't matter what you do afterwards.
It's like at the end of the year when people do their Spotify Wrapped, and you have that buddy who's is like he's listened to like 280,000 hours of White Noise fan. Like
yeah.
like that's their top 10 tracks is White
Yeah.
Noise.
whale
How it-
sounds. For
yeah, exactly.
sleeping. Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, I thought he was going somewhere else with the intro, but I'm glad it was just a nice, innocent.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
good. I'm
Some
glad we'll
message.
work on that. We can do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And I do appreciate the irony of complaining about noise over whatever background audio is going on.
Hey, well, let's get into the next question.
G'day, legends at Pinkbike. Brett here from Western Australia. Just a question about my Stumpy Evo and running a Fox Float X. I'm 192 centimeters or 6'4", and weigh 100 kilos, and yeah, in reasonable shape, and yeah, got a bit of a dad bod, but who's judging? So yeah, just interested to get your thoughts on how to cater better for heavier riders. So essentially the recommended pressure is 350 psi, and you can imagine that there's not particularly much suppleness off the stroke. So keen to get your thoughts. I'm not sold on just jumping straight on a coil shock, and I can hear Henry queuing in, do trail bikes, are they even a category? Should we just have like an enduro or an XC? So yeah, keen to hear your thoughts of how I might be able to set my bike up better for a heavy lord like myself.
Heavy
big
lord.
shout out to Kaz
Hell
as
yeah,
well. I'm pretty
dog.
sure he gave me a couch to sleep on in a media tent when we were in Rotorua in New Zealand in 2014, which spurred a
No
bit
shit.
of a filming job through Pinkbike for many years. So yeah, thanks to you legends. Keep
Wow.
up the good work. Cheers.
Yeah.
Sick.
That's pretty cool.
All the way from WA.
Yeah, I mean, so I think there are two things going on here. The first question I'd like to ask before we get into the specifics of his situation. Sometimes there's a notion, I think especially in the past, where coil shocks were better and more reliable for heavy riders.
Mm.
Is this necessarily true?
I think decreasingly so, but depending on how good you are about taking care of your gear, I do think there's still something to like a coil shock being a bit more forgettable.
The trouble you can run into those with the spring rate, especially like on the Stumpy Evo, where you tend to have to run a higher spring rate anyways, because it's not the most progressive bike. So if you put a coil shock on there, you might have to go even higher, and then you just might be ending up with spring rates that don't exist. I'm not sure. Like I
Well,
wouldn't really.
It's crazy to me to think this guy, it's not like he's, how to put this?
He's not.
It's
that
not like
big,
he's
and
an extreme, it's
No,
not
No, by no
you know,
means.
Yeah, 220 American pounds, and yeah, it's at 100 kg. So it's like not huge, but what's the max pressure on a Float X? I guess we could do that too.
I think it's
it's-
like 400, 350, 400.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause
it's
they
a
changed
bit
it.
north of where he is, but not by a lot.
It's crazy to think that, when your air shock is fully compressed, it's at like 10,000 psi.
Yeah,
It's so
it's
scary.
a lot of
Grenade between your
yeah.
like those threads when you're done hand tight, maybe like a bit more with a strap wrench if you've got one.
Yeah. And I think Float X is 350, so he's like right at the max.
Hmm.
So from there, he's basically got the option to reduce the volume, I suppose. But that, again, can mean that you get something with, impossible to reach the end stroke.
There are like a few aftermarket. Sorry, my voice is really sounding bad right now. There are some aftermarket options to make that bike more progressive. One of which is made in Australia from Williams Racing Products, and you could probably get a little bit better top end grip and still avoid any harsh bottoms at your weight with that installed. Like,
and what's that? Is that a link? Is it?
I believe it's a link or a yoke. I forget which. How WRP achieves that, but for someone heavier, that would probably be a decent tuning option.
The tricky thing though is if you change the leverage ratio and then you need to run more air pressure to counteract that, he's already at max air pressure, then it's in a tricky spot. I'm surprised he has to run that much, but I would really just start with the very basics, just like see how many volume bands you got in there, or volume spacers, and then check your sag just to do like the very, very beginning, because possibly he's running a little too little sag and can let a little bit out and still not have just be a little bit softer off the top in general. But,
and also going to a aftermarket tune, maybe up a couple of notches, might take some of the heavy lifting off the air spring. Your sag might be, it depends how we're at the effects at bottom out might be different with more compression in terms of that like max event. If that's what you're going off, the more compression damping may well help. If you're going off sag, then you're already at it's a suitable figure, then obviously it wouldn't change that. But I think it's super interesting. Like Kaz, for instance, sometimes you've categorized yourself as quite a lightweight rider, but you're not crazy lightweight. What, you're 170 pounds?
Yeah, 160, 170.
And sometimes it feels like the window is so narrow.
Yeah, it's like designed. Their bikes are just designed for the 180-pound person, and that's it. Like you go on either side, and all of a sudden, like, wait, how is it? I'm only 20 pounds different, and it's a whole different thing. So,
I know Sebastian, the normal mountain biker, rides a Stumpy Evo, and he's around 300. I wonder what he does to set that bike up. I mean,
he seems like a pretty nice guy. Might even worth just hitting him up.
Yeah, like shooting him a message could be worthwhile.
It's weird.
I'm not like vouching to blow up everyone's DMs, but that could be a pretty useful way to get some info on that.
Yeah, it's a good way if people are riding, especially on the same bike that you are.
Yeah.
He is running the Float X on there. So,
do you think there's any particular linkage that suits heavier riders more, or do you know what I mean? Like, because that seems to me like
I think a lower leverage ratio, a lower starting leverage ratio is better for heavier riders, just because then you don't have to put in so much air pressure.
You look at like Raw does 2 links for their bikes. So you'll have like for riders over a certain kilogram weight, they recommend the lower leverage link, and then for riders under, they recommend
does
higher
the
leverage.
Stump Jumper have adjustable chainstay length? Because it could be worth trying in the shorter mode just to reduce the...
Yeah, like functionally the high-low flip chip does change chainstay length. So
that could be a good spot to start. Yeah, just try the shorter one just to see if it changes that feel.
I mean, look at us talking about recommending short chainstays. I think that's a sign of growth. Well done.
Luckily, it's not that. I mean, it's short, but it doesn't get too crazy short. It's like 435, I think. So
yeah, it's still reasonable. Depending on, I mean, if he's a tall dude, he's probably riding the S5 or S6. So they would be still plenty long.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Cool,
options for sure.
Yeah, stuff to try out. Yeah. And yeah, I know, man, it is quite terrifying going over that recommended.
Yeah. I know that like oftentimes any good engineering project has like a safety factor of 2, but even like going 1 PSI over max pressure feels scary to me. So I don't fuck with it. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. So yeah, I hope that's, I would say, if none of those work, maybe try getting some more, just ask them for the big meaty shims. Just
solid
thick pieces of ham.
Like nickels with holes drilled in them.
Yeah, totally. But just put coins in your shop. That's it. Right. And let's go on to the next question.
Hey, Pinkbike. This is Bevan calling from Edmonton. First time, long time. I'm wondering if you could comment a little bit on the relationship between bike travel and rider skill. I bought a Norco Fluid on your guys' advice 2 seasons ago, and I've been taking it out to the bike park in Valemount and having an absolute blast on it. I can ride as fast as I want to go, and I can ride all the features I think I can do on that bike, and even progress a little bit. Would I be having more fun if I had more travel, or is that wasted on somebody who's just not going to do the biggest features in the park because I'm a 35-year-old dad with a job? Thanks.
There's something happening in the
I was going to
back.
say, I think
His child,
The kid needs you.
Yeah.
I think that this, you could look at this with like the extreme of the scale being people recommending hardtails for beginner riders, and I think all of us agreeing that that's kind of a silly approach. I don't think that travel correlates with rider skill. It correlates maybe more with the terrain that you want to ride and what experience you're looking to get out of riding.
And it can be really fun. Like it might be worth even just renting a downhill bike at the bike park. I'm not sure if I don't know. I'm not familiar with Vail Mount, so I don't know if it's just like a pedal up bike park or if it's actually like he's talking about chairlift riding. But for people that haven't ridden downhill bikes, even if you're a intermediate rider, they're super fun and it's worth trying just to see what all that travel is like and kind of managing that amount of suspension. It's not the be all end all, and you probably won't be riding a downhill bike on your regular trails, but it's cool to see just how much that can change, how fast you can hit things and how it absorbs bumps. It's like, it is the equivalent to like a trophy truck where you can just like plow through things. That's a very fun experience.
And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think sometimes it's almost inverse. Like the less skilled the rider, the more travel they like, which is why I gravitate towards enduro bikes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why you hate trail bikes, because you just need the extra cushion.
Yeah, I mean, you have more grip. Like it doesn't shake out all the time quite that simply, but like generally, the more travel you have, the more grip you have, and in a sense, the more forgiving your bike will be. So
something that occurred to me this weekend. So the trails opened back up yesterday in Squamish. Went for a little pedal, and I think that a bike with the geometry I like descending on feels worse and more alien to the human body when you ride it around the car park. Like an old enduro bike with a lower front, and like you would get on it, but this is how I remember a bike feeling. When you get on a bike with lots of travel and a really high front end, it's like, this isn't how a bike's meant to feel. It feels like it's falling on the front. It feels very ungainly. And then you get on the trail and it begins to feel good. But I think there's something about that where I know I always talk about skiing, which is ironic because I suck at skiing. But in the same way that like bigger skis are hard for beginners, but they also make certain situations easier for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the powder ski analogy. Like powder skis aren't good on groomers typically, like on hard pack. But then when you get the right terrain, that's what you want to be on. So it's kind of like choosing the right tool for the job. But I do encourage people that haven't tried different amounts of travel, different bikes, try them out. Like even the same thing with short travel bikes. If all you've ever been riding is an enduro bike or big, heavy, slack, mushy thing, get on a little short travel bike, and you might enjoy that experience too. There's just different flavors. But yeah, for bike park riding, like this guy's talking about, I think going a little more travel it's a worthy experiment.
There is something so cool about taking one of your friends that's a really good mountain biker, very experienced, for their first day on a downhill bike.
Yeah.
And they just cannot.
It's so
it's
crazy.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's really fun. So yeah, if you can do that. But yeah, I think you don't need more travel. It sounds like you're doing great with what you have, but if you want to borrow a bike or demo a bike and just see if you like it, that's why there's different options.
Absolutely. What do you think at the moment is, I always bag on trail bikes, I've been there, I've done that. But there was a time where it felt in the industry, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, that the enduro bike was the most impressive in a bike's, in a brand's range. What do you think at the moment is the most sort of zeitgeisty impressive category in terms of what a mountain bike can do, in terms of sort of maybe its efficiency to its travel?
I mean, I think that almost goes to like we can call the all mountain category now. It's kind of coming back, but like that 150 rear travel, 160 front. Yeah. I think it's kind of like the Stumpy Evo that we were talking about before that caller called in. That bike, what you can do with that style of bike, or even the Bronson from the field test, or even that little Canyon that was 140. I think what you can do with that bike, and as far as like the range of terrain that it can take on comfortably, is pretty impressive. Like even this weekend, like I was riding my Bronson, I was like, oh yeah, this bike is a good bike, and it's riding down gnarly things that years ago we were riding on bikes with dual crown forks and free riding and stuff. So it's pretty cool how bikes have evolved to let you do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think short travel bikes too are maybe where you notice how far we've come on bike design and technology. Like long travel bikes have gotten a lot better as well, but have always been more impressive. Where a 120, 130 bike was a useful tool, but not necessarily like the most capable thing. But at this point, you could do a lot on that kind of platform. And to me, that's where brands are like really showing their chops in terms of what they're capable of.
Mm. Yeah, a bike that I always think of as well is when travel, what it signifies a bike's intention. But that Chromag we had a couple of years ago during field test, that
lowdown,
it was the shortest travel, but the way it tracked was just amazing.
Yeah,
it was really, really special. Cool, that's it through the questions. We kind of rattled through them this week. Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you're asleep by now. That's normally the case.
Yeah.
Not if you listen to it when you're driving. But otherwise than that, we hope you're asleep. That's actually the loud outro is a safety feature to wake people up in a highway when just as they're dozing off. Thank you very much for your time this morning, lads. Thank you very much for sending your questions in. And as always, please don't be shy. Get them in there and we will do our best to answer them. Thanks, and we'll catch you next time.